What's going on, everyone? So, Melissa Berrera, right? She has, in many ways, kind of been this sort of scream queen, doing all these various horror franchises from Scream to, she did Abigail, and now she's about to be in an upcoming horror film, which we'll dive into here in a moment. But, she portrayed Sam Carpenter in the last two Scream movies, and we're moving into kind of in the modern era, the first Scream movie without Melissa Berrera and Sam Carpenter. Also, Jenna Ortega will not be returning to this film. Supposedly, the Jenna Ortega thing was just because her schedule with Wednesday and everything like that kind of interfered. But Melissa Berrera, she had a bit of a falling out. And it kind of created a bit of a divide in the Scream community, right? A lot of people really liked her portrayal of Sam Carpenter, more so in Scream 6. Like Scream 5, the general consensus was kind of, not very good, that she wasn't very good. A lot of people really wanted Jenna Ortega take over and be the main kind of character in the Scream franchise. I think part of that was just Jenna Ortega was kind of on the rise. She was kind of a fan favorite in a lot of ways. Also, in Melissa Berrera's defense, I just think the writing for her character, like she portrayed the character. I defended her a lot during the Scream 5 into Scream 6. And, I just thought that, she played the character exactly the way it was supposed to be portrayed. She's on all this medication. She's dealing with hallucinations, all this stuff. She's very kind of plain bagel in a lot of ways. And, there was a lot of kind of just frustrations with her character. But again, an actor can only get across as much as the writing allows. And so I felt like she was kind of contained in a lot of ways with Scream 5, and then I thought she had more kind of opportunities in Scream 6 to show a little more of array, and she kind of became, again, people kind of supported her once again in Scream 6, and then obviously the departure in the upcoming Scream 7, which we are back into a Sydney era. We are very likely going to get a trilogy. We have Scream 7 coming up, and then Scream 8 is already greenlit. I'd be pretty surprised if she stops there, or if Scream stops there at Scream 8. I imagine we'll probably get Scream 9. And Melissa Berrera, she's finally, kind of moving on and moving into new projects and new films, including one coming up with John Travolta, which I think is very interesting. So diving into it, Melissa Berrera will star alongside John Travolta in Rennie Harlin's Black Tides, a Killer Orca movie. Bill, played by Travolta, tries to reconnect with his daughter Rebecca, played by Berrera, when their sailboat is attacked by rogue orcas off the southern Spanish coast. So, to me, it kind of feels like this is like a Jaws style film, and we've gotten a lot of films over the years of like, kind of being stranded, stuck in water with like sharks, or, being trapped in spaces. What is it like? Was it like 40 or 23 days or whatever it is, where that was with like James Franco or whatever, right? Like you've had a lot of like films, the Sky Rise or whatever, where they were like stuck up. So again, you add elements of just like being kind of isolated, adds that tension, adds that fear. You can imagine, right? Like, Jonathan Travolta as well as Melissa Berrera kind of being trapped on a sailboat. You're kind of vulnerable there as opposed to like a yacht or something like that, right? Kind of on the sailboat, kind of trying to reconnect as a father and daughter. I imagine that there's some kind of story and backstory as to why they, kind of fell to the wayside with each other, kind of reconnecting, trying to rebuild that father-daughter relationship, kind of trapped in isolation a bit, and cue in a terrifying threat that is, a killer whale, right? Like you could have some kind of interesting elements in that. And I do like that it isn't just a, another shark movie or something like that. The Killer Orcas. I know like the statistics on Killer Orcas or orcas period, like taking people out and stuff like that. But we'll touch on that here in a moment, right? It's good to see Melissa Berrera kind of back into the swing of things, back into kind of the horror thriller space. We'll see if this leans more kind of thriller than it does horror. But just to kind of get back back into the saddle, get back into the movie space. Have Jonathan Travolta playing a role in this. He's had some, crazy. I mean, he's had some iconic franchises like Face Off, things like that. But he's also had, some kind of crazy films in recent years and stuff. But I'm something that I'll definitely check out. Something I think that is different, kind of interesting. Like I said, it's not the same old run of the mill, like here's a shark and people stranded in the ocean, right? Like, so giving us that kind of, I imagine there'll probably be elements of drama, elements of tension build. It's like, can we get back in the water? Can we, like the boat's breaking, sinking? You probably have some elements. It's always one of those things when you create a film where, it's like you think of things like Phone Booth or whatever, right? Like it's really into the acting that everything gets carried on, because like I imagine that the cast list is probably not going to be something crazy. You're probably going to be, like I said, very limited, very isolated. You're on a sailboat. You're in the middle of the ocean. You got these killer whales just kind of being all over the place and being aggressive. And it's like, getting you a call for help, things like that. And anytime you do something like that, you need the acting chops. You need to have, characters well flushed out, characters that have that connection. Again, I imagine that would tie into the tension in their relationship. And then ultimately it'll probably lead to, the reconciliation, the bond between the two. Maybe a couple people get taken out along the way. Maybe one of them get taken out along the way. Maybe it's something where, Jonathan Travolta's character ends up, sacrificing himself so his daughter could get away or something like that. And it's just this emotional moment after they kind of, make up, right? Like, you could do some fun creative stuff, but just the cast, like I said, seems kind of small, seems kind of tight. I'm all for kind of, these kind of, creative films. Obviously it's one of those movies, if I'm being honest, that you want to kind of see, because you think about it, it's like, okay, we got two people, or maybe it's several people, but the relationship and connection is supposed to be the mother, or sorry, the daughter father connection, right? And you put them in a life-threatening situation, right? Like that in and of itself sounds kind of interesting. You include orcas that are out there trying to kill them or whatever, or being aggressive and attacking and stuff like that. You add, was Shamu, right, back in the ocean, ready to take on, like you can envision the potential that could be there. But it is a movie that definitely is going to require good delivery, good execution, good acting, good storytelling, and good delivery all around, because that is also a movie you can see where it's just kind of, if it drags on, or it kind of, is not, if it's not, kind of, if it's not paced properly, it's probably a good way to put it. If it's not paced properly, you could see this kind of being a little bit of a dud, and I want to see Melissa Berrera and everyone. I want to see people have success. I just, I never want to see anybody fail. I never want to see anybody not be able to be the best version of themselves, and so Melissa Berrera jumping into this, I'm hoping, I'm rooting for her to have some success, right? Like, in, having Jonathan Travolta attached to it, it probably is going to be, a pretty decent budget film. But again, there is a potential of this where it's just kind of like, like that didn't go the way we wanted it to. Pacing is going to be a very big factor. How much of it is a focus on the orcas, right? Like, because you could have something where this is, say, I don't know, an hour and 45 minutes, right? Where maybe like 40 minutes of it is kind of the buildup of their relationship. And you kind of have like this sort of drama type film that midway point leads to kind of the chaos that gets injected by the orcas, right? Like, they're trying to salvage the relationship. It's just not going the way they want it to. It's not working. And then now here comes disaster. And it's kind of like, you got to put your differences aside in order to overcome this obstacle. I think that could be something that could be fun and kind of interesting. Again, but anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Are you excited about this film? Are you kind of like, yeah, we'll wait and see? Like I said, I think this sounds like a film that could be very hit or miss. Obviously, I'm hoping it's a hit. But we will see. Time will tell. Anyway, again, how you feel either way, let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me not. It's me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel. What are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.